222. We're at our checkpoint.
One of the most important aspects of plotting movements for units in Steel Beast is to understand, and then take full advantage of, the pathfinding logic that translates your intentions into reality once you say proceed. Those intentions include paths that reflect the reality of three-dimensional space, such as the difference between a path of a drone over a town and a platoon of armored personnel carriers navigating through the same town strewn with obstacles. While both units may need to arrive at the same destination, their paths through, or over, that terrain will be very different. Every new patch and version of Steel Beast brings improvements in pathfinding for the AI and how units interact with the terrain. To make these improvements more useful and obvious, the purpose of this video is to show some best practices for unit pathfinding in Steel Beast. In version 3, the off-road pathfinding didn't work very well, and many players disabled NavMesh pathfinding by default. As new versions were released, old settings may have been forgotten and simply kept that way out of habit. eSim Games strongly recommends enabling NavMesh routes by default. Only NavMesh supported routes enable more sophisticated AI behaviors of computer-controlled units. You can take advantage of a number of AI improvements since version 4.0 only if you actually use the NavMesh route plotting, and then it's better to enable it by default so that it's only disabled intentionally. You can do so by going to the Options menu and removing the checkmark next to Hold Alt key to plot NavMesh routes. As described by the menu, unchecking this option means that NavMesh routing is on by default, and holding down the Alt key now does the opposite, which is to disable NavMesh routing. The NavMesh is the guide for real-world pathfinding for vehicles and infantry separately, and reflects both what the map describes, but also obstacles and other barriers that might not be on the map. These obstacles can include temporary ones that the opposition may have created, such as barbed wire and ISO containers, and small buildings that may not show up on the map. This is to simulate imperfect information on the map meeting the reality of the battlefield, where maps or satellite photo intelligence may be out of date. In the case of a unit that must travel straight across terrain instead of following NavMesh pathfinding, holding Alt makes it simple to plot a course that flies directly from one point to another. Notice that this same drone flying over the town can now fly straight across without making unnecessary ground maneuvers, though in most cases the underlying pathfinding logic is intelligent enough to compensate for the height of a flying vehicle versus obstacles it might run into. Nevertheless, holding the Alt key is the easiest way to turn on and off pathfinding and see if there is something you had not factored into your plans. Effective pathfinding is an especially relevant topic for infantry, whose slower speed and higher susceptibility to fatigue makes it critical that they take the optimal path. For instance, vehicles will actively avoid crossing the Wadi Wall except in select places, and this is because infantry and vehicles use their own separate NavMesh. The vehicles look for an alternate entry point instead of being bogged down. This may also allow for opportunities that take advantage of the fluid way an infantry team might infiltrate through a passage that armored vehicles can't penetrate, or stay in formation while adjusting their paths individually in a congested urban area or an obstacle-strewn landscape. For example, this infantry platoon is maneuvering to attack in box formation. When a hole is blown through an adjacent wall, the platoon is able to adjust its path on the fly to take advantage. Look for a future video for more information on infantry formations in combination with task forces, which create easy ways to manage and plot routes for custom-created groups of units. One recent innovation after Steel Beast version 4.1 was the creation of a way, when finalizing a group route, to force all units from a group into a convoy formation using exactly the same path from the first route node to the final waypoint by holding the Control key. Here is how to do so. Group units as a task force. Select New Group Route. Control left-click on the first route point. Shift left-click for additional routes that would use roads where able. Control left-click for the last route point. And then, while still holding Control, use Control right-click to finish and orient your forces in their end positions. On arrival of the route's endpoint, the original formation of the task force will be restored. Using this method, you can move large groups of units from assembly areas to staging areas more smoothly and with less effort, allowing your attention to be focused on other matters. Before concluding, there are some basic things you should know about route plotting in Steel Beasts. By holding the Shift key, you can left-click on a selected route to add a vertex. If you hold the Control key instead, you can left-click on a route vertex to remove it. Note that this is only applicable to routes you have not yet embarked on. Stop the vehicle first using a tactic like Hold, and then edit. When creating routes, hold Shift to force road-bound navigation between the current route node and the next, similar to the snap to road function of versions prior to 3.0. Note that not all roads are considered to be of equal quality. When calculating the optimal route, Steel Beast gives preference to larger roads. You may be required to set manual waypoints at shorter intervals. We hope you found this video informative. Please join us at the user forums at steelbeast.com. Thank you.